Hey, you guys, name that reference. But what's up, everybody? Thank you for stopping by. Thank you for joining. I am super pumped for this live stream today. This has been something I've wanted to do since my birthday last week. I just needed to find the right time. I almost sat down, recorded, and edited a video. Actually, I started to write notes for it, and then I thought, you know what? This would just be a much more fun video to make if I could just go live and talk to you guys, just strip back, laid back, sort of relax, not have notes, because it's not like I'm ranking these movies. These are all 18 movies that help get to know me. They're not all necessarily my favorites, even though there's a couple of them on here that are in my top two of all time, really. There's a couple ones that are very, very high up there, but this is just the movies that sort of get to know me and my love of movies, how it sort of grew over the years that I've been alive, different instances, different stories that I can tell. Some are funny, some aren't necessarily funny, but I still want to sort of just inject them in there and let you guys know, because I feel like this is a good opportunity for you guys to get to know me just a little bit better. My love for film goes way beyond these 18 movies. There are way more that I love, a lot more than some of these, but it just seemed right. It sounded like the fun thing to do. I got the idea and the inspiration to do this from Jennifer Vega. She has a YouTube channel as well, Jennifer Vega. Just search that up. Her link is actually in the description as well. She gave me this idea. I thought it was perfect, so I definitely want to give a shout out to her. But to everyone in here, thank you so much for joining. I see Bernardo, the movie geek. Yo, happy belated birthday. Thank you, my friend. I really appreciate it. Nicholas Lloyd, happy belated birthday. Thank you so much. Isaiah QK, thank you as well, my friend. Star Wars and Marvel's fan 2004. Hi, hello there. How's it going? Thank you for joining. I really appreciate it. Dimension Scott's in here too. Happy birthday. So the crew is all in here. Still waiting for some more people to roll in. But pretty much what we're going to do is I'm just going to name off these 18 movies, but the way I think I'm going to format it is I'm going to go 9 movies and then sort of address the chat. I'm going to talk to you guys, maybe answer a couple questions you have maybe on the movies, or just read your comments that you have surrounding those movies that I picked, because you're probably going to have some thoughts afterwards. But after those 9 movies, I'm going to do that, and then I'm going to go into the last 9 and do the same thing, address the chat. And then I got some helium balloons over here in the corner that I got on my birthday. It's a big 1 and a big 8. I don't want to suck the helium out of both of them because I definitely will pass out, but I think I'm going to cut open into one and just have some fun, make some jokes. Maybe I'll do like a Hamilton rap with my helium voice. I want to see how high-pitched it can go. But yeah, I think we're going to have some fun here, and then after that, I'm just going to go into a standard Q&A. I'll probably whip out the helium throughout that entire thing, but this is going to be one of my longer live streams. I'm not really worried about the time here. I've got nowhere to be except for here, having fun, talking to you guys. I really appreciate everybody who is stopping by and just showing support and wants to get to know me a little bit better, because that's the entire point of this. But I don't want to drag on too much longer, so if you're in here, make sure to leave a like and subscribe if you haven't already, because it helps that so-called algorithm out there. I don't know if it actually helps it, but that's something people say, and it just feels right. But Movies and Train Studios is in here as well. Happy B-Day, Broham. Thank you. Guys, just so you know, my birthday is not today. It was actually last Monday, but this is the time where I felt like it was right to just hop on here and do the stream. There was a couple things that led to it being pushed back a couple times. Most recently, because the 4th of July, I wasn't going to do a stream on that day, but it's finally time. Thank you for joining. I'm rewatching WandaVision right now, currently at episode 7. Episode 7's a good one. Episode 8 is my favorite. Dr. Jones, happy birthday. Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I really appreciate it, guys. Yeah, I guess we'll just go ahead and get into this. Like I said, these are in no particular order. They're just sort of in the order that I could think of in my head that I watched them for the first time. These are the order that I actually saw them, and I remember something significant about them. All these movies on here are significant to me for some reason, and there will be a little bit of a backstory behind them. A couple on here are just because I was like, wow, that's a pretty freaking good movie, but otherwise, it's just they serve some sort of significance from the time I was like maybe 2 years old up until now. But let's just go ahead and get into this. Reminder, these aren't all my favorite movies. A couple of these I don't even necessarily like anymore, but I did at the time, heavily. The first one is Cars. This is a perfect example of a movie that I'm not a huge fan of now, but it's the movie I first loved. It's the first movie I ever saw in the theaters. It's the first movie that I became obsessed with. And when I say obsessed, I mean obsessed in all caps. Everything I owned was Cars after I saw this movie. I slept on Cars sheets in Cars pajamas. I brushed my teeth with the Cars toothbrush. I had Cars night lights. All of my furniture was Cars. I remember I had this Lightning McQueen TV. I think it was Lightning McQueen. Yeah, it was a Lightning McQueen TV that my parents found somewhere. It was like his head, but it was a TV screen. It was like a little box TV. It wasn't too big at all, but it was for children. I had that. Literally every piece of merchandise you could ever think of when it comes to Cars, I owned it. I was the biggest Cars fanatic on the planet, at least that I know of. But there was something about this movie that I just really enjoyed at the time. I love the fact that I was literally seeing Cars come to life. But now, the novelty of it all has sort of worn off. And I will say that even as a kid, I was obsessed with this movie up until the point that Cars 2 came out. Yeah, so even I think I was like 3 years old when this movie came out in theaters. I might have been two. So up until the sequel came out, I was a big fan of this movie. But then the sequel came out, I watched it, I didn't like it at all. Even as a young child, I recognized that movie was not good. And that also sort of wore off my love for the first one as well. I just didn't really return. I grew out of it, and I sort of moved on to other things. And I think that my taste was an upgrade just a bit, because what I moved on from there was Toy Story. Now, this is sort of cheating because, as you see on here, it says Toy Story 1 through 3. I am going to include all of them, but they count as one on my list, they're not all three part of the 18 movies. They count as one just on my list to pair them up, because all three of these movies have such a significant impact. But the first one especially is the first movie I loved after Cars. I got the DVD for Christmas one year, and I was just blown away. Again, it's the whole idea of seeing something that I never would have thought would have been true come to life in this animated form, this time being toys that can talk. Disney had a significant impact on my childhood, and I still believe even today that Toy Story or the Toy Story trilogy, the first three are some of the best animated movies ever made. The second one came out. I remember because the movies had already been out by the time I was alive, so I got the DVD pack, but it was this really thick combo DVD bundle that it had the first Toy Story and the second one. So I got them both at the same time, and I rotated those discs heavily. Like, I wore those things out. I also scratched them a lot. So I remember it got to the point to where I'd watched them and handled them so much that I could not play them anymore. But I wore them out to their fullest capacity, and I watched them for as long as I could. I think my favorite at the time was definitely the first one. The second one actually scared me. I remember for the longest time, I was freaked out by the whole sequence of Woody on the table getting fixed up, and that guy with the monocle thing, like the super close thing that he could look at his like stitching. That guy freaked me out. Seeing Woody with no arm getting stitched up and all this stuff, I didn't know what was going on. It was a little too dark for me as a kid. I guess I was a wimp, but yeah, but I just love. Even then, I recognized that there was something different about them. Like, I felt like I had learned something, and still today, they're the movies that. They're at the top of my Pixar ranking. They're at the top of my animated movies ranking. And I think it's because they all have stunning visuals. They all have great voice casts, but they also pack a punch that they're not only something that kids can relate to, but adults can relate to too. And each film is like progressing with age. And so I can't imagine how it felt for the people who actually grew up with these films as they were released, because each movie marks a different landmark in your childhood, in your growth as a human, as an adult, talking about letting go, talking about sharing or getting to know others in a way that the world doesn't always revolve around you. Like, it packs in these messages that are so adult, so mature, but it's still got plenty for kids to enjoy. And I know for sure that I was obsessed with it. The Toy Story movies, the first one's great. The second one is probably my least favorite. Toy Story 3 is by far my favorite Pixar movie. I'm not including the fourth one just because that came out years later. I enjoyed the movie, but these first three, they had something about it that, as a kid, I loved them. I watched the third one in the theater, and I remember I was bawling when I thought that they were all going to burn alive. Lotso was one of the best villains. I'm going on. I could go on forever about this franchise because I care so dearly about it. But yeah, after Cars, Toy Story was that next franchise, that next group of friend or films that I was so heavily attached to, and really that hasn't changed today. So that is my number two on the list. Number three is something that I'm more so embarrassed to mention. Something that, yeah, I liked it big at the time. I was a huge fan. Now I see these films as trash. I wouldn't even call them films. Like when I look at movies and films, I sort of associate them in two different ways. This next thing is the High School Musical trilogy. Again, three movies, so it's kind of cheating, but this is my list. I remember I was about, again, I was probably about 3 or 4, maybe 5 years old, and I had been gifted the first two High School Musical movies on DVD from my aunt, and that same aunt also gave me the soundtracks for the first two. And I watched them, and I was like, what the heck is this? This is like real people? I'm not used to watching movies with real people. It's got music. It's got basketball. What the heck? Is that how you play basketball? No, it's not. It's not how you play basketball. Just heads up. If you're curious, if you're not into sports, that is not how you play basketball. Now watching those movies, like especially the first one, they're committing so many violations in that one sequence. What is it? Head in the Game. That whole sequence is laughable now, but yes, these movies I was obsessed with. Vanessa Hudgens as Gabriella was my first ever crush. I can admit that. I wanted to be Troy Bolton. I remember some point in between the second and third movie, which I also saw in theaters, I got a Build-A-Bear. My brother and sister-in-law took me to the mall. They took me to Build-A-Bear, and I got this just generic bear, and I dressed it in all this basketball gear. I even got this little mini hoop attachment with it. And you get to pick a name, for what you want your bear to be called. I think they give you like a certificate. I named this bear Troy Bolton. I named it Troy Bolton because that's how big of a fan I was. I just wanted to be him. I thought he was cool. He got all the girls. He got the prettiest girl I had ever seen at the time. So I was like, this dude is doing everything right. I need to do what he's doing. I love the music. I knew all the songs. I got stickers. He was just something I was obsessed with. I wore out these DVDs once again. That's the sort of the trend here with these first few movies, franchises, is that I would get hooked on a specific thing and I would only watch that for months on end, even years. I watched these for a couple years straight up until the third one came out. And like I said, I saw that one in the theater. Then I got that on DVD, and that is the one that I stuck to for months on end. I probably annoyed the crap out of my parents. I say probably. I most definitely annoyed the crap out of my parents because they're not good movies. I feel bad for them that they had to sit through it, but I guess there could have been worse things that I watched. But yeah, now I look at the movies. I don't think they're great. I think the way that they burst out into song is a bit cheesy. It's all very melodramatic. It's not the best acting. I think some of the songs are still solid, especially from that third one. Like, I can't deny I still bop to some of those. They're not the worst. But it's a franchise that at the time, yeah, I was obsessed with because somebody else had introduced it to me. If I wouldn't have ever been given those DVDs, I probably wouldn't have had such a close connection with them, but I did. And that went on for a long time. I'm glad that I moved on from that. But I kept a close eye on some of the people in those projects, and I still follow them today just because I remember the significant impact they had on me when I was a child. And some of them have moved on to do some pretty crazy things, like Gabriella. The most notable thing I've seen from her since is Spring Breakers, which is complete polar opposite of anything she did in High School Musical. Zac Efron has gone on to a bunch of raunchy comedies and stuff like that. They've all sort of formed their careers around trying to break that Disney barrier, so it's really funny. But yeah, those movies, jeez, I'm sort of embarrassed to tell you how much I actually was obsessed with those. Yes, I said I wasn't going to address the chat yet, but Bernardo says, get your head in the game, Jaren. That's exactly what I need to do. Yep, that's how it was. That song for me was, that was it. That was it for me. I love that song. But moving on, this trend here for the first four on my list are all Disney movies, because our next one is Bridge to Terabithia. This is a movie that I still think holds up. It's a movie that I think is Underrated, not talked about enough at this point. I think at the time that it was released, a lot of people were talking about it. It was first a book, which I read in school later on after I saw the movie. But this DVD was given to me. All these are because somebody gave me the DVDs. If you haven't picked up on that trend, besides Cars, which I saw in the theaters when it came out, all of these movies, somebody gave this to me on DVD. I had a pretty nice collection of DVDs at the time just because I think my parents always got them for me for Christmas and for my birthday. And I had family that did the same to me too. But yeah, so I got Bridge of Terabithia on DVD. I remember I popped it in one time. I was probably like 5 or 6 years old. And I was watching it, and I was really just impressed. I loved the world and how they created this land in Terabithia where they could sort of escape reality. I like Josh Hutcherson in this movie and how he's sort of growing up on a farm, not as fortunate as others in his community. He gets put down for that a lot, but he also has to take care of his sister. He's got older sisters who pick on him. I remember the scenes of him like getting that pair of Adidas with the pink stripes on them, and he gets the Sharpie and he colors them black. There's a lot of little stuff in there that I still think works today. It's a very fun movie to watch, but also just the friendship between him and his best friend here. That's the first time I had seen that dynamic at this extent in a movie, and I was all for it. I loved it. I just couldn't wait to see what happened with them. And while I was watching it, I remember that moment to where he goes off to that museum with his music teacher, played by Zooey Deschanel from New Girl, the girl from Elf. I absolutely love her. They go off to this museum. He thought about bringing her, but he decides to just leave her behind, his best friend. And so they go, and he comes home, and his whole family's crying. And I'm like, what the heck is going on here? And they say that his best friend went down to the creek and swung across that rope swing. It broke, and she died. And I remember in that moment, which I'm getting chills right now thinking about it just because I can remember the first time I saw it, but I was laying on the couch and I started bursting with tears. This is the first movie I ever cried at. This is the first movie that I got this emotional because I felt like it was real. Like, I feel like when you're a kid and you watch stuff like this, it's hard to separate reality from fiction. And so I very much thought that this was a real thing that happened. Like, it hit close to home with me. I felt the impact of it. And so I remember hearing the news that she had died in the movie and all this stuff, and I was just laying there crying and crying and crying. My mom was in the bathroom getting ready for something. I'm not sure what it was. And she came out and she saw me, and she just hugged me. She had to hug me for a long time because I kept crying. It hit me hard. I remember that. So it definitely had a significant impact in the fact that that's the first time I felt real emotion to that extent that wasn't just pure happiness and joy, and that I was so unaware of what was happening, but the visuals were cool. No, like, this is the first story that I actually latched onto, that I loved the world, loved the characters, and I was so heartbroken when one of my favorite characters in the movie passed away, when she tragically died. I see a lot of people in the comments saying they've never seen the movie. I'm sorry if I ruined it for you, but it's been out for a long time now. Like I said, it was initially a book, which I'm not a huge book reader, but the book is worth it. The book is really good too. Like I said, I read it a couple years later, and I was really, really impressed. I'm more of a fan of the movie just because I like visual storytelling a bit more. But yeah, it's just a movie that I think holds up very strong. It's got great characters, tells a great story. It sort of teaches you a lesson on appreciating the people and life that has been given to you, which is a common theme in a lot of movies that I really, really like. But yeah, Bridge to Terabithia is a movie that, like I said, first to make me cry, first that I felt that deep of an emotional impact, and still one that means a lot to me today. So we made it through 4. The next one is a little bit, the next one is a little bit more comedic, a little bit more lighthearted than Bridge to Terabithia, and that is 17 again. Now, again, this is a movie that was gifted to me on DVD. The reason I like this movie so much, the reason I wanted to watch it in the first place, is because the leading man was, at the time, I only knew him as Troy Bolton. I was like, what the heck? Troy Bolton came from High School Musical. He's 17 again. He's back in high school playing basketball. What is this madness? And I watched the movie, and I absolutely loved it. I was just, I like the comedy, even though at the time, obviously, I'm not going to understand these jokes. It's got adult humor. I'm not going to understand and be able to grasp the concept at hand. There's a lot of dark humor in this as well. Just a lot of dark subject matter when it comes to divorce, your family not really caring for you, having this emotional strain between you and the people you love the most, not feeling like your life is worth anything at this point, feeling like you passed up all of your dreams and your biggest opportunities. That's a lot of deep and heavy stuff for I think I was 6 years old, a 6-year-old to understand, to deal with. But all I knew was that Troy Bolton was in it. He's playing basketball again. There's this dude who wears these weird elf ears named Ned. I was really getting into basketball at the time, so any movie with that was sort of lighthearted, I was going to enjoy. But I also remember stuff like when another thing about this is that I liked the main character, Matthew Perry, before he transforms back to Zac Efron, and I thought, hey, this dude's cool. Little did I know this was a little bit of foreshadowing here, but later on I would go on to watch Friends, see Matthew Perry again. He'd become my favorite character in the show, and he's just one of my favorite comedic actors, especially in television. But yeah, I love his style, I love his comedy, I love his timing. And this movie just really, really worked to me. It's funny though, because I always thought that I would grow up to be Troy Bolton. I would always grow up to be the guy in this movie playing basketball. But really, as much as I don't want to admit it, I sort of turned into more of the Ned character, the movie geek. The dude is obsessed with pop culture. He's got a lot of movie merchandise and all this stuff. That's turned into me. I formed a whole YouTube channel around movies, around entertainment, pop culture. Like, what the heck? I've turned into the Ned dude, the guy who in this movie everyone made fun of. But I feel like nerd culture is sort of like more acceptable now. It's funny how that sort of turned around. Nicholas Lloyd says, who's Troy Bolton? It's Zac Efron. That was his character in High School Musical. I'm just saying that at the time, I was obsessed with that. People are like making fun of my opinions on here, like totally just tearing them apart. It's hilarious, but that's cool. Like, I agree with you. Some of these movies are not quality, but they are the ones that really had a significant impact on me at the time and got me into movies to the point where I was able to reach where I am today, appreciating a little bit more in-depth, dynamic film storytelling than those movies. The picks do get better. Star Wars and Marvel fan 2004 says, are you obsessed with Zac Efron? No, I'm not. At the time, I was. Absolutely not now. No, I haven't kept up with him in a long time. Then the last movie I saw from him is We Are Your Friends, which is a while ago. But yeah, these are just the movies that at the time, yeah, I was obsessed with them. I was more obsessed with the character and the fact that he got the girl that I liked. But yeah. So, the next movie, let's see. We've got 5 so far. Remember, I said I'm going to give the first 9. I'm going to take a break, address the chat just a little bit, and then we'll get back into it. The next movie, The Sandlot. 4th of July just came by. This is my go-to movie for that, but it's also my go-to movie of the summer. I remember the first time I watched this with my brother on the projector screen in his basement. I was totally blown away. I love the friendship dynamic here. I love the mystery of this beast that is over the fence that you never see. It was just so lighthearted. I love baseball. Baseball is rooted deeply in my family. And so seeing that to where you could just go to this field where all these kids were just playing together, having fun. There was no set rules. They weren't playing teams. They weren't playing actual games. It just went on in a loop. I loved that dynamic of the movie. It's also one of those movies that is rotten on Rotten Tomatoes that I absolutely don't believe it deserves that. But I was obsessed with this movie. When I saw it for the first time, I wanted to watch it over and over and over again. It became the movie that I would watch every single year to kick off the summer. I remember I bought this on Blu-ray a couple years ago when I was starting my collection, and I watched it every day, all of summer vacation. That's how much I like this movie. Benny the Jet was one of those characters to me, too, that you look at and you just think, he's so cool. You'll never be as cool as him. You'll never meet somebody as cool as that. This guy who rules the Sandlot is the captain of the team. He's the leader of his friend group, and he goes on to play in the majors. That's so cool to me. So yeah, this movie just had an impact on me for being fun, for being very just nostalgic, even though I didn't grow up in that time, but it makes you feel like you're a part of it. Having a ton of characters that I really enjoy. It's also very, very quotable. You're killing me, Smalls, obviously. You play ball like a girl. It's great. What more can you say about The Sandlot? But yeah, I just rewatched it the other day, 4th of July, and I was still impressed by how much I enjoyed this movie. Like, I don't know. It holds up. And then today, before the stream, I watched The Sandlot 2, which, funny enough, is still directed by David Mickey Evans, and it has the same voiceover from the guy who played the older Smalls in the first one. But it does not have the same charisma or charm at all. This was just a lightning in a bottle movie that you're not going to see very often. It's hard to make, but it worked for the time that it was released in. It still works today, and it's one that is going to forever go down as one of my favorites. Yeah, so The Sandlot definitely had to be included on this list. Next up is Child's Play, the original. Yeah, that's night and day difference right there. The funny story about this is that when I was younger, I was obsessed with the Rugrats. I watched them every day. I also watched the spinoff show, All Grown Up, where they're obviously all grown up. And I loved all the characters. My favorite character was Chucky. I think you can see where this is going. I was obsessed with Chucky. He was definitely my favorite character. And then one day I remember I was riding in the car with my parents, and they started telling me this story about Chucky and how he's this little doll and he's going to come and kill you. And he has a knife. He carries a knife around, and you got to watch out for him because he could sneak up on you, blah, 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 blah. They were talking about somebody totally different, but I didn't know that. I was so young. The only thing I associated that name with was Chucky from Rugrats. So I took a long hiatus from Rugrats. I was afraid of the show. I was afraid of Chucky and his wiry hair and those big glasses. All of a sudden, everything I loved about the character became my worst nightmare. And then I remember one Saturday morning, yes, I remember the specific day, very, very thoroughly in my head. I got up, walked downstairs, made myself a bowl of cereal, and my dad had this movie on the TV. I sat down. My mom was like asking him, she's like, what, is this too mature for him, blah, 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 blah. He just kept it on. I sat down, I watched it, and they're like, that's Chucky. And I'm like, what? That's Chucky? You mean the guy that... Wow. So I was stunned, first of all, because I was like, I had taken such a long break from my favorite cartoon show. I was kind of mad, kind of upset. I didn't have to be scared for Chucky at all. He was not the dude that I would... Wow. Okay. My camera cut out. 1 second. This happens often. It's okay. We're back and rolling again. But anyways, I was sort of disappointed because I was like, what the heck? This guy that I was so afraid of, I worked it up for nothing. It's not even the same person. But I sat down, I kept watching the movie, obviously, and I got into it. I like the lore of like seeing the guy transfer his spirit into the body of the doll. The whole dynamic of him getting close with this kid, Andy, but the kid not believing that he was talking and anything like that. And I just liked it. My parents said I laughed a lot. I remember laughing somewhat. I thought it was funny, which if you think about it is pretty demented. That's pretty creepy. I don't know if there's something wrong with me that I thought the movie was funny. I guess it does have sort of a dark humor, but for me being a child, it's sort of odd that I enjoyed it as much as I did, but I guess that sort of like introduced me to the world of horror and sort of was a foreshadowing that was soon going to become my favorite genre. That was soon going to have a big impact on me. But yeah, definitely that movie it scared me just a little bit, but it was more so just enjoyable. Like I sat down and I watched it very closely. So yeah, like I said, that was a foreshadowing that I was going to become a huge fan of horror, which I did. That's my favorite genre. 7, 8. Okay, my number 8. It's a Wonderful Life. So the story goes with this is that one year for Christmas, my brothers gave my mom and dad a Blu-ray player when Blu-rays were first a thing, and that movie that they gave them with that was It's a Wonderful Life on Blu-ray. For the first time ever, it was brand new, never been opened. That was the only edition you could buy on Blu-ray at the time. We watched that. Apparently, that was always one of my dad's favorite movies. It became the tradition to where that Christmas Eve, we watched it. I was bored to death. The next year, again on Christmas Eve, we watched it. I was bored to death, but a little less so. And it became the tradition that every Christmas Eve we would roast pecans and we would watch It's a Wonderful Life. And every single year, I started to come around on it more. I think just because I got used to it, I knew what to expect, I knew what was coming, all the characters, and it slowly became a movie that I really started to enjoy. And over time, it's now become one of my favorite movies of all time. George Bailey is without a doubt one of my favorite fictional characters of all time. And just overall, like Jimmy Stewart is probably my second favorite actor. He's definitely up there in my favorites of all time. Just the story, the idea, and the aspect it plays on with appreciating the life you have and not letting those moments pass you by. Stop focusing on all the things you don't have and realize what's already right in front of you. It packs a lot of emotional punch. It's got a lot of great themes and messages that everyone can take something away from. The whole relationship between Jimmy Stewart and Donna Reed was great. I love the I'll tie a lasso around the moon for you, that whole thing. I love the idea that Jimmy Stewart channeled a lot of his emotion in this movie from his PTSD from the war, because he had previously come out of the war that he was called to fight and serve in. So he used a lot of that in his emotional scenes. You see the moments where he's about to jump off the bridge, where he's breaking down, where he's crying. He channeled a lot of that emotion from there. But it's a movie that I didn't appreciate at all at first, but over time it became one of my favorites of all time. It was for a little bit my favorite movie of all time until I saw another movie on this list, but it's got such a close connection to me. I hold it so close to my heart, and I'm so grateful that my brothers gave us that Blu-ray, and that became a tradition. Even after my dad passed, that's still something that we do every year. Me and my mom, we sit down and we watch that on Christmas Eve, and it's so special. I think it's even more special now. So that movie is definitely very, very important to me for sure. The next movie on this list, Halloween 1978. 1 year on my birthday, my dad gave me $50 to go to this store called Movie Stop, where they sold old entertainment, old media, Blu-rays, DVDs, VHS. He gave me $50. He said, go in there, get whatever you want, pick as much as you can out for $50. This is when I was watching some collectors on YouTube and really getting into physical media. I didn't understand the importance behind it yet. I didn't understand what was so great about it, but I knew, hey, it's pretty cool to have your own physical collection of media, of the movies you love. And so I went in there, paid $50 for all the movies I could, and one of those was Halloween 1978 on DVD. Obviously, my dad had to approve the purchase because I was very young. I was not old enough to get that on my own. So he came in, he was fine with it. We sat down that day, we watched it. I was blown away. This movie did scare me. It did. I think this might have been the first movie to scare me. I loved Michael Myers, though. I loved the intrigue behind it. I'd been told beforehand that it was a William Shatner mask that had been like painted white, and I was showed who that was and all this stuff. So I was like, wow, that Captain Kirk turned into a serial killer. This is cool. But I sat down and watched it. Jamie Lee Curtis is a character that, or an actress that I've heard a lot about just from my mom and dad. A lot of people say my mom looks like her, but I sat down and I watched it and I was just blown away. I like the fact that they call him the boogeyman. There's this mystery behind it. You don't always see him, and it's so scary even though he's not front and center in the frame a lot. He's very much off into the distance. He stays away. A lot of the fear comes from him sort of praying and sort of just hanging out in the darkness before he finally makes his attack and makes his move on Laurie Strode and her friends. It also sort of set up the whole thing of like the 10 commandments of the horror films, or like those lists of rules to where obviously if somebody is drinking alcohol, if they're doing drugs, they're going to get killed. If they're having premarital sex, they're going to get killed. If they're doing all this other stuff, like there's all these different things, these checkpoints on a list that cross off, that this movie sort of established that. And I love the way that it played out. Again, this is a movie that it took me years to appreciate to the fullest extent, but I knew from right off the bat that I enjoyed it. And that, again, it confirmed the fact that I love this genre. I love horror movies. And it was my favorite for a very, very long time. It was my favorite horror movie up until I saw another horror movie on this list, which we will get to just in a few minutes. So far, we have gone through 9 movies. That was my 9th. Let me make sure. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Yes, 9 movies. So I'm going to address the comments. We're going to take a break. I'm going to get a drink here because that is a lot of talking I'm having to do. Ah, you like my little dog mug? It says woof on it. It's pretty great. I like it. So let's scroll back up here in the comments. Let's see. Theron says, thoughts on the Child's Play reboot? I actually enjoyed the movie quite a bit. I do own in my collection. I don't even own the original Child's Play in my collection just yet. But I thought it was really fun. It's a movie that I don't think has to rely on the Child's Play name in the Chucky lore to hold it up, because I think it definitely plays into the modern times very, very well, and technology. I think Aubrey Plaza plays an oddly very believable parent. I think it's got a dark humor to it that really works. It's got great visuals. Some of the kills are pretty like out there, pretty crazy. It's not outstanding by any means, but I got to see that one in the theater and I really enjoyed it. I actually have a Chucky doll. No way. I would never be able to do that. Dolls, they creep me out so much. Man, that's cool though. Like, is it a good guy doll? Like, does it come in like the original packaging and all that? I mean, it's pretty cool. Yeah. I can never do it though. In my area, there's actually this milk brand called Chucky. That's interesting. I've never heard of that. That's cool. I will say the first Chucky film I saw was Seed of Chucky. Possibly the worst one. I hope you went back and watched some of the better ones. That one's hilarious, though. It's not even a horror movie at that point. It's just a terrible comedy. Jack's Movie Talk. Happy birthday. Thank you, my friend. So my birthday was actually last Monday, but I appreciate it. Thank you so much. I actually saw somebody who had a Child's Play shirt, which had Chucky from Rugrats on it as the doll. See, that's perfect branding. That's a great cross right there. I'm sure a lot of people mixed them up. I know, like I said, I for sure did. I was so scared of Chucky from Rugrats. I'm just glad that that was able to wear off, that I was able to learn who it actually was, because I remember immediately after that, I went back to watching Rugrats religiously. It's a Wonderful Life is one of the best movies I've ever seen. Phenomenal movie. See, I told you my list gets a little bit better. Like, you'll see as the list goes on, my taste got increasingly just a bit better. The movies start to get a bit more mature. Like, I start to see stuff that's more for, I guess, adults and more mature audiences. I didn't stick around with that very young Disney Channel genre for too long. Whoa, horror is your favorite genre? What a hot take. Really? That's a hot take to you? I felt like that was probably a very popular take. I don't know, though. I guess it depends on the people you surround yourself with. Everyone I know says horror is the worst genre. I used to hate horror, but the more I was great horror movies for the first time this year, I appreciate this genre more. The more I saw great horror movies, maybe. Yeah, definitely. You got to put yourself out there. You got to be willing to watch some stuff, whether it's popular stuff, obscure stuff, and you're quick to grow your love for it. It just depends on what you watch, because there's some stuff out there that's very masterful. Look, Daddy, teacher says every time a bell rings, an angel gets his wings. Yeah, I love that scene there at the end to where they're standing there. He comes back. He's embracing his family for the first time. He's holding his daughter, and everyone comes in. They're donating money to help with the bank. Yeah, the bell rings. And he opens that book or whatever that has the angel. The angel wrote him a little forward. Yeah, that's a great ending. Also a really good quote. It's a Wonderful Life is my favorite straight-up Christmas movie, but my number one favorite Christmas movie is Die Hard. I like your taste. I like your taste. That movie is what made Jimmy Stewart my favorite classic actor of all time. He's my favorite classic actor of all time, hands down. Absolutely. Like I said, top 2 favorites of all time in general. Jimmy Stewart is great. It's a Wonderful Life, Mr. Smith Goes to Washington, Vertigo, Rear Window. The dude's got so many great ones. Just a little heads up, a little sneak peek at my Criterion haul, because the Criterion 50% off sale is going on right now. One of the movies I got up or picked up was The Philadelphia Story that stars Cary Grant and Jimmy Stewart. I haven't seen it yet, but I want to own every Jimmy Stewart movie, and I know that's one of his best ones, so I'm really excited to check it out. Oh, classic horror film, man. Yes, sir. My favorite movie genre is controversial. Superheroes. Hey, I don't know if that's controversial. I know a lot of people like that. But yeah, I definitely know you're a big fan. Obviously, you have Terry on the cover there. Batman Beyond. Yeah, that's a great genre. Michael Myers, Chucky, or Freddy Krueger? Asking the really hard questions here. So my favorite is definitely Michael Myers. If I had to rank the three, it would definitely be Michael Myers, Chucky, Freddy Krueger. I'm not a fan of Freddy Krueger. Maybe that's a hot take. Halloween 1978 is my second favorite horror film of all time under The Witch. Wow, The Witch is your number one. That's awesome. Halloween 1978 is actually my second favorite now as well. I'll get to my favorite very, very soon. I think The Shining is my favorite horror film of all time for straight up full on horror films. You got good taste. You've got very good taste. Let's see. Movie Geek says the Philadelphia Story is so good. That's what I've heard. I can't wait to check it out. Katharine Hepburn's in it as well. Like the cast is absolutely stacked, which I also just found out recently. Katharine and Audrey Hepburn, not related whatsoever. I thought they were like sisters. One was like mother, the other one was daughter. I didn't know. Because I'm not super familiar on their work yet. I'm still trying to catch up on some of it, but that's crazy. That's cool. Let me take a drink, and we'll get back into the last 9 on my list. I'll answer this question really quick from Movies and Train Studios. Thoughts on the Vivitch? I think the movie's really, really good. It's very slow burning. It takes a while to get to the main like premise of it, like the meat and potatoes of the narrative. But once it really starts to dive into that lore, it gets really dark. It gets really eerie and creepy. I love the environment of it, just being set out in the woods in the middle of nowhere. Obviously, at the time, there's no technology, and just how like everyone turns on the daughter. And that ending is wild. Definitely one of A24's better movies. Okay, but let's kick it back into gear here. So we left off with 1978, but we're gonna pick it up with Big. This is the movie starring Tom Hanks. This is a movie that is definitely for families. I'm pretty sure it's PG. But I remember I just loved the setup of the movie at the time that I watched it. My brother David showed this to me on cable one time. And I still remember because there's that scene where the kid transforms into his adult self, played by Tom Hanks, because obviously the movie is about the kid feeling like he can never win. He's too short for the rides. He can't get the girl because he's too small. There's things that he wants to do, but he's too young to do it. So he goes to this Zoltar machine and he puts in a wish, and he wishes that he could be older. He wakes up the next day in the body of Tom Hanks and has to adult, but he's like 12 years old. And his best friend is still young, so there's that whole dynamic. But I remember there's this scene where his love interest in the movie, he goes back to her place and he's sitting on her bed. She might be sitting on his bed, actually. She takes her shirt off, she's in her bra. And my sister-in-law was watching with us, Christy. And she's sitting there and she's like freaking out. She's like, David, Jaren doesn't need to see this. He's too young. And then she has him place his hand on her boob. And I remember she was going ballistic. She was freaking out. They got in a fight about this, and I was sitting there watching like, what the heck is going on? Why are they making a big deal out of this? I was just watching it. I didn't think too much about it. I guess I thought it was a little bit edgy. Like I thought, maybe I shouldn't be watching this, but I am. This is cool. I'm cool right now. So I kept watching, and it's just a movie that I absolutely love. It also has that iconic scene that I remember was like a preview for a lot of Blu-rays early on. Tom Hanks and the guy, the manager of the toy store, they're like stepping on that gigantic piano, playing the song that's like dun 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 dun, or however it goes. I remember that scene was iconic, but also it's just like I watched it as a kid, and I thought, yeah, I'm definitely in the same shoes as this kid. I want to grow up. Being a kid is boring. You can't do anything at all. But I also feel like the point of the movie, the story, the theme behind it all is take every day one step at a time. Don't take every moment in your life one step at a time. Don't rush it. Just go with the flow, because these things are going to come on faster than you expect them to, and then it's going to come with a lot of responsibility, a lot of hardship, a lot of things that are put on you all at once. And so just enjoy the life you have in the moment, and just enjoy childhood. Enjoy being a kid with not a lot of responsibility, being able to go home after school and just play. Hang out with your friends all the time. You don't have bills to pay. You don't have commitments to make. You don't have responsibilities. You can just do whatever you want to do, pretty much. Life is good. So it definitely stressed that idea of don't rush growing up. And it made me realize, I guess, in that moment that, hey, maybe being a kid isn't the worst thing. I don't want to pay bills. I don't want to have to figure out how to work at a job. I mean, he had a pretty cool job. He got to work at a toy store, testing out toys. But it's also this, like, there's just a lot of imminent pressure that comes on it. And in that moment, I was just like, hey, I'm fine with the life that I'm at. But that also introduced me to Tom Hanks for the first time ever, and I'm so happy it did. I went on to watch Forrest Gump, Castaway, all the other movies that he's in that are great. Obviously, I didn't know at the time that he voiced Woody in Toy Story, but I love this Tom Hanks guy. Another movie that I watched when I was that age after seeing this movie was The Burbs. Another movie that I was just really impressed with. I thought was a ton of fun. But yeah, Big was that movie that I didn't expect to love at the time, but it was just put on. My brother put it on, and we sat there and watched it, and I was blown away. I was just mesmerized, and I was sucked in. I definitely owe a lot of my love for movies to the people around me. I feel like most don't grow their love without being assisted by friends, family who show them the ropes and sort of introduce them to a lot of this stuff. That's how it is for me. Most of the movies that I love, a lot of these movies that were very influential to me, were introduced to me by somebody else. Yeah, so Big definitely holds a big place in my heart. I absolutely love it. But next movie on my list, The Amazing Spider-Man 2. Okay, go ahead and hit delete or hit unsubscribe, hit thumbs down, do all the things because I know you guys are going to hate me now. You're going to bash me, but if you've been on this channel long enough, you know that I love this movie. It's my favorite Spider-Man movie. No, I don't think it's the best, but it's my favorite. I saw this one in the theater with my brother David, the same one who showed me Big. It might have been the same weekend. It might have, because I was staying the night at his house, I know, when we saw the movie. We might have watched Big after we saw Amazing Spider-Man 2 in the theaters. Like, it was very close proximity, like a couple days difference. But he took me to see this movie. I remember, I don't know, I don't think it was opening night when we saw it because there were 0 people in the theater. I think it was him and I, and then maybe one person in the front row or so. There wasn't a lot of people. I remember that. But I watched it, and I was just so, like, I was blown away because I grew up watching the original Sam Raimi trilogy and all those movies, and I love those. But this one just felt different. It felt alive. It felt vibrant. I liked Emma Stone. I liked that it just felt more intimate. There was a good relationship there, a good bond. Believe it or not, I loved the opening at the time with Paul Giamatti as the Rhino and him just sort of chasing him down in the big semi truck and like the guy's crashing into a bunch of stuff and Spidey's just there like cracking jokes. I loved it. I thought it was fun. It's just so campy and cheesy, and I embraced that. Also, like, it's got some of the best visuals of any Spider-Man movie. This is me talking partially of my experience within the theater, but this is also just sort of incorporating my thoughts of it now because it still is my favorite Spider-Man movie. I was afraid to admit that for the longest time, too. Like, if you see my first Blu-ray collection video that I did a couple years ago, when I get to the Amazing Spider-Man 2 Blu-ray, I'm like, the Amazing Spider-Man 2. Yeah, I'm not going to talk about that one. And I threw it. In the back of my head was feeling like, I'm so ashamed right now. Because I know good and well that this is my favorite Spider-Man movie. But I'm just too afraid to admit it. And so I hid it for so long. But now I fully embrace it. And it's definitely one that still to this day, I see it as the most pure and true representation of Spider-Man. The suit is the best in my opinion. I think it has the best visuals. It has the best web slinging. It's got the best ending of any Spider-Man movie. One of the best endings of any superhero film in general with Gwen Stacy, her ultimate fate. It's got a brilliant score from Hans Zimmer. I'm a huge fan of Electro. I love Jamie Foxx's Electro. I think he's a great, like, example of a fanatic going way too far into his obsession for a character, for a being, because he lives his life surrounding himself with Spider-Man, surrounding his world around Spider-Man, and then once he does him wrong, he feels like he needs to do payback. I love that aspect of it. Another thing I remember from that theater experience, though, which just sort of, it holds a very good spot in my heart, it's a great memory, is that my brother messed around with me a lot in that theater. We were in the very back, and I remember he would get up. He was, like, giving me popcorn showers throughout the entire movie. He was just, like, sprinkling it. He'd throw it at me, chuck it at me, or he'd, like, raise it above my head and just drop it. And then you could see it in the projector screen because he was raising his hand up far enough to where it was literally getting the shadow in the projector. I feel bad for the person down in front, but my brother didn't care. And then when the credits rolled, I remember it played the song It's On Again with Alicia Keys and Kendrick Lamar. He got up and he started dancing like super, super crazy. Again, his shadow was in the projection. You could see his silhouette on the screen. I was totally embarrassed. Nobody was watching at that point. Like, the guy in the front had left. But the people in the booth could see it, I'm sure. And I don't know. It was funny. Like, I was like, let's get out of here. This is insane. But overall, the movie, yeah, just has a soft spot. I've always had a soft spot for the movie. I really hope that No Way Home brings back Andrew, because that is my favorite Spider-Man as well. Yeah, I think the movie's overhated. I love it. I really do. Next, the movie that possibly made me appreciate movies to the level that I do today, Nightcrawler. If you haven't been on my channel for long, or if you have, Nightcrawler's, I remember it came out 2014, the same year as Amazing Spider-Man 2. 2014 was a very packed movie for films. My dad bought the Blu-ray, brought it home, we watched it, and I was in awe. I had no words afterwards. This is the first movie that I sat and I had to process for a long time at what I just watched, because it was dark. It was very eerie. There was a lot of dramatic stuff that went on in this movie that I didn't fully understand, but I knew for the first time this was the first time I ever sat down and I watched a movie, and I noticed all the technical aspects of it. The way it was shot, the way that it was put together, the simple cuts and jumps throughout the film, but also the way that California presented as a character in itself, as the city life in the day was very vibrant and alive, but at night it became this ghost town that also just bred a lot of crime, a lot of murder, a lot of drama. But also, there's this character, Lou Bloom, played by Jake Gyllenhaal, who, throughout the entire course of the movie, does not change whatsoever. He remains static. He's a sociopath. He doesn't see anyone's feelings or needs before his own. But everyone else around him seems to have some sort of arc. Everyone else around him has this change, this progression in their character. That's the first time I had seen that, to where the main character of the movie I was watching doesn't change at all, but everyone else around him does. And I knew that that was different. I knew that there was something about it that was different than anything I had ever seen, and I was obsessed. Like, I thought about the movie for days on end until I had to watch it again, and I kept thinking about it and kept thinking about it. That's what actually introduced me to Chris Stuckman, because I saw his review on YouTube. That's what introduced me to him. That's when I first started watching him. Then I got introduced to the Flick Pick, John Flickinger, because he also posted a review for it. And he was talking about how it was probably one of his favorite movies ever. It still is. It was one of his favorite movies of that year for sure. And just hearing them gush about it. They were talking about all these terms that I didn't understand. But I started like really keeping tabs on this stuff, holding into account these different terms and the way that they used them. And from that point on, every movie I watched, I kept thinking about those terms, that terminology, that way of thinking, and I started applying it. And I give credit to them for introducing me to that knowledge of film that I didn't have before, sort of making me aware of those different aspects to look at of what makes a good movie, but it also confirmed my feeling as to why I thought it was so good. And that's what really sparked this continued trajectory of my love for film, for filmmaking, and it really helped me get to the point that I am today, to where I have a channel surrounding the process of filmmaking and film criticism. It's because Nightcrawler is what jump-started it all. That's crazy to think about, because I didn't make a YouTube channel for years after that. But it definitely just planted the seed. It planted the seed that grew and continued to develop over time. Jake Gyllenhaal is still my favorite actor of all time. This is one of my favorites, if not, like, it's always competing for my #1 favorite movie of all time. Nightcrawler is electric. It's dark. I don't know, man. And also, it's one of the best performances I've ever seen. I gotta say that. It's one of the best performances I've ever seen, and I can't believe that. I didn't realize it at the time. I wasn't paying attention at the Oscars, but I can't believe that movie didn't, or that movie didn't get nominated for Best Picture, and that Jake Gyllenhaal didn't even get a nomination for Best Actor. Because now, seeing more movies from that year, he most definitely gave the best performance. He gave one of my favorite performances of all time. I could gush for Nightcrawler for hours. It's just that good. It's that good. Let me take a drink, because that's a lot of talking to do. Okay. The next movie on my list is The Shining. I saw a couple of you in here say that this is your favorite horror movie of all time. It is my favorite horror movie of all time as well. I saw The Shining maybe 2015 for the first time ever, and I didn't know what to expect. I knew I had heard my dad talk about it a little bit, about how creepy it was and how good it was, how he enjoyed it, and I sat down and I was blown away. This movie scared the crap out of me. It was probably the scariest movie I'd ever seen at that time, and I didn't understand why. I just knew that after watching it, left such a nasty feeling inside of me. Like, it was so depressing and dark and eerie, and I still to this day can't fully explain why it works as well as it does, but it builds tension in a way that you don't get from horror today. You just don't get that in horror movies today. I still think it's the best, if not one of the best horror movies ever made, because there's a difference between best and favorite. It's most definitely my favorite. The chilling theme in the beginning, the chilling score, just Jack as a character played so well by Jack Nicholson. That's just me needing another drink. My throat is getting very dry. The great performance from Jack Nicholson. Obviously, the history with Shelley Duvall. If you know anything about the backstory of the movie and all this stuff and the production of it, Stanley Kubrick pretty much made it living hell for Shelley Duvall on set. Like, he caused a lot of trauma for her that I don't know if he was just seriously a bad dude, like he was just abusive, or he was trying to really pour into her to give her more to work for or work off of and implement in her performance, because her performance here is chilling. She definitely acts very, very scared, freaked out, afraid for her life. Obviously, Red Rum, the kid with the finger, all that stuff. Here's Johnny, that quotable scene. There's so much about this movie, but it's also like you go back and you watch it, and every time you watch it, you find something new about it that you didn't notice before, but it's also like you get these things in your mind like, was he ever okay? Before they went to the Overlook Hotel, was he normal? Or did he always have that evil lurking inside of him that was just waiting to be awoken, waiting to be alive and to come out? It's just, there's so many layers to the movie. Stanley Kubrick is a legend. I think this is his best movie. It's my favorite movie of his for sure. The Shining. It's still to this day creeps me the crap out. Okay, I'm dark again. I really need to fix that. I need to figure it out. I was looking at the settings on my camera earlier today, and I could not figure out a way to stop my camera from powering off. I'm really not sure. I think I'm missing some sort of cord. But yes, The Shining. What can you say about that movie? Jeez. In the comments, what does it say? I'm not going to hurt you. I'm just going to bash your brains in. So many great quotes as well. Yeah, it's just freaky, man. It's freaky, but it's very well made. I love The Shining. My favorite horror movie of all time. My favorite movie of all time, The Shawshank Redemption. Yes, it is my favorite movie of all time right now. It's competing with Nightcrawler very closely, but this is the movie that, it's the first one I watched, and I could not think of anything I didn't like about it. It's so solid. My brother Marcus showed this to me the first time, and he said, "You're gonna like this movie." I love this movie. I know for sure you're gonna like it. If you're getting into movies like this, this has to be one you watch. By the end, I was in tears. I was totally blown away by the impact it had on me, and the fact that it does so well at building this environment, building these characters so well, whether it's Andy Dufresne or Red, or even all of the side characters in this movie. Not many movies are going to spend 15 minutes going on this side plot where they talk about these other characters that have nothing to do with the main narrative. But this movie does that, and it works. When you have the character who, the old man who releases from prison, and he goes and he has to live his life, and he's figuring out how to do all this stuff, and he's so just, he's used to the system and imprisonment because he spent most of his life in that facility. When he gets out, he doesn't know what to do, and life just doesn't feel the same. He doesn't feel like he has a purpose, and the world is just sort of grown up too big, and it's too lively for him that he ends up killing himself. That whole sequence was something that most movies cannot do. You take a side character and you make him that important, like you spend that much important runtime on him, but it feels necessary. Just also, like, I love going into the prison, Shawshank Reformatory. You have the Shawshank, what's it called? Shawshank Prison is the track by Thomas Newton, and then leaving it at the end, it's called the Shawshank Redemption. You have these different tracks of the music, and they definitely share the same themes, but the first one is very dark and eerie, while the last one is very, like, positive and uplifting, and, like, there's hope, there's light at the end of the tunnel. If you've seen the movie, you get what I'm saying. But yeah, there's so much. Sorry, I'm like peeking over at the comments just a little bit. I'll definitely address that very, very, very soon. I do want to shout out Zach Pope, who's in here. Happy birthday again, man. How's it feel to be 18? Thank you so much for joining, Zach. I really appreciate it. It feels good to be 18. It doesn't necessarily feel that different. I was going to talk about this later, but something about it, like one of the first things I did when I turned 18 was I looked up like 50 things you can do when you turn 18, and I was surprised by how boring it was. Like, I think the most exciting thing I can do is get a tattoo, which I think me and you were talking about. I'm going to get this big old tattoo across my chest that says, "No regrets." I mean, come on. That's great, right? I should definitely do that, right? Tell me down in the comments if you think I should get that tattoo. But otherwise, it's like, you can't have any fun. You can't really do anything different. Yeah, so it's not that different, but it's cool. Like, it's cool. But anyways, The Shawshank Redemption is my favorite movie of all time. I love the characters. I love the fact that it's got so many different dynamics to it in the way that it's so dark, but in the end, it's got such an uplifting and hopeful ending, where you see Andy and Red embrace each other on the beach. Like, that was such a happy ending for such a dark movie. But yeah, also Thomas Newman. That is my favorite score of all time. He's my favorite composer of all time. There's nothing bad I can say about the movie. It's weird because it's hard to talk about stuff. It's weird because, like, it's my favorite movie of all time. It's almost harder to talk about movies that you really, really love than it is to talk about movies you don't like as much. All I'll say is that The Shawshank Redemption has no flaws. It's one of the most perfect movies ever made, and it's one of those few that you could never remake it. Also, fun fact, Tom Hanks was originally approached to play the role of Andy, but he had to turn it down to film Forrest Gump. So, I just learned that not too long ago, but that's pretty cool. Okay, next movie, La La Land. This is my first reintroduction to musicals after my long before love of High School Musical. I took a big break from musicals. I didn't think it was going to be my thing. After I grew out of High School Musical, I said, nah, musicals, I can't get into those. Those are too girly. They're not my thing. This was most definitely my thing. I didn't see it in the theaters. I didn't see it for the first, like, 2 years it came out. I didn't watch this until 2018, I think. And it wasn't until I went Black Friday shopping one year, and I went to Target, and this movie was there for like $5, so I picked it up, and I watched it. It was at the pile that I got, it was at the bottom of my pile to watch. Like, I wasn't interested in it at all, and I put it in. Another Day of Sun, that whole sequence plays, that whole dance montage on the Los Angeles highway. I was in love, and I kept watching it, and I kept growing more and more of a love for it. I love Mia and Sebastian. Emma Stone and Ryan Gosling have amazing chemistry, and I love the fact that you see them. They're so different, but they've got that same common goal of they're chasing each other, or they're chasing their dreams. And so that's sort of something that they can bond with each other through, and they grow this chemistry. They grow this love for one another, and you can see their relationship blossom. And early on in the days of the relationship, they're very supportive, and they're doing everything to help each other reach those goals and push and strive for those achievements that they hope to make. But over time, as they begin to chase their success more and they chase their dreams, there becomes a what's it called? I'm totally blanking. There comes that tension where they're not able to spend as much time with each other. They're not able to connect on the same level that they were before, because their biggest love is becoming their passion. And I love the movie of it shows a great example of love and relationship, but also how some things are only meant for a season. And I feel like the way that the film is structured, it also does that as well, because it goes through the different seasons until it ends, and you get to the point to where there's this big long montage where you feel like everything is going exactly how they planned. They're chasing their dreams and they're having such a happy life together. And then you go to modern times and you see that she's married to another man. She's got a kid, and he's opened up his restaurant, but he's single. He's not with her. And that inevitability that they're not going to end up together in the end was so heartbreaking, because you know that they love each other. You know that they are the reason that they were able to go out and chase their dreams, but at the same time, they realized that maybe they were only put in each other's lives to help each other realize what they were meant to do, but not to be with one another forever. And so the fact that it actually played on the idea that not all stories have a happy ending, that some relationships aren't always going to last and be meant to be, that was cool. Like, it was very unexpected, and it was hard at times. Like, the first time I watched it, I was like, come on, man, that sucks. But the more I thought about it, I was like, that's perfect. That works very, very well. Also, just like you think about the making of the movie, Damien Chazelle, I feel like he's always been such a great filmmaker. Before this, he did Whiplash, which is top 3 favorite movies of all time for me. It's not on this list, but it easily could have been. Maybe when I turn 20, I'll do another one. It'll make it on that list. But he made a masterpiece like Whiplash, and he makes this movie, and they both have the common theme of sort of hard work and chasing your dreams, and that dedication, sort of choosing your passion over your relationships, and that confliction there. And I think Damien Chazelle is just a brilliant filmmaker. Like I said, the chemistry was great. Ryan Gosling took the time to be classically trained on the piano, to learn all these songs that he had to play, which is some pretty hard stuff. This also introduced me to jazz music, that and Whiplash did. Jazz music is one of my favorite genres of music, and I think it's because it's ever-changing. It's always evolving, and even when you've got a set sheet of music, there's always new directions and avenues it can go in, and you never know where it's going to lead up. And I feel like this story very much represents that, and I also feel like the fact that Ryan Gosling put in the time and effort to learn all these pieces of music was very impressive. It's got a amazing soundtrack, one of the best soundtracks for a movie ever. It's beautifully shot. I love the way colors are used in this, and so sort of like each character has a different color that represents them, each mood, the tone of the film sort of shifts. It does a lot of great techniques that really work and enhance the movie overall. I love this movie so much. It's in my top 10 favorite movies of all time, and it's the one that got me back into musicals hardcore. Like, I took a long break, but after that I was like, wow, okay, I need to watch more musicals. I'm back in it. I'm into it now. So yeah, La La Land definitely has a significant impact on me. I've got 3 more on this list. If any of you guys can guess what movies might be on here, let me know. But this next movie, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. This might be one that's odd for you guys. It's not the first Tarantino movie I saw. That was Pulp Fiction. But it's my favorite Tarantino movie. I think I'm confident in saying that. I saw this opening night with my brother Marcus in the theater, and neither of us knew exactly what to expect. I knew Margot Robbie was my favorite actress because I had seen her in Wolf of Wall Street, I, Tonya. I thought she was great. Obviously, you can never go wrong with Leo and Brad Pitt. There was something surrounding this movie that felt like an event. Every time Tarantino has a new movie to be released in the theater, it's an event. Like, people are going to go out, not even if they're super interested in his stuff, just because they know it's important for the genre, important for filmmaking in general, for entertainment, and that it's going to be talked about. It's going to have some sort of significance to it that is going to last for years to come. And we sit down and we watch that, don't know what it's going to be about. And I was totally impressed with the way that it's a movie that has not a lot to say, but with that it does a lot. Like, that's confusing to think about. the movie is a hangout movie. It's not trying to have this super in-depth enhanced narrative. It's not supposed to be like super thought-provoking. It just shows a look at the industry in the late 60s and sort of how everything was dying off, how there was a new generation coming in, how the industry was changing, how people who were once in the spotlight can sort of fade off, in the way that the industry can sort of do things with that and sort of manipulate what roles you take, the studios, what they can do with actors who have been in the business for so long, to sort of fade them out, let new talent in. You definitely get that aspect and that side with Rick Dalton and Cliff Booth. But then also it shows the other aspect of the newcomers, the people who are up and coming in the industry, like Sharon Tate. Someone like her, you get the simple scenes of her going to see her own movies in the theater and just sitting there being so mesmerized and proud of herself for making it, for having a movie, having a performance that was in the theater for people to see, being so consumed by that. And so it definitely shows a great tale and a great story of the new and the old. But I also love the way that Los Angeles was transformed to look like the 60s. The set design here is great. I love the attention to detail, the advertisements for Red Apple, the short commercials, the moments to where they're literally like injecting Cliff or Rick Dalton or Leonardo DiCaprio in The Great Escape, to show how it would have been if he got the role instead of Steve McQueen. Stuff like that. When they're driving down the road, the radio station. Classic, put together in this way that Quentin Tarantino remembers it from his childhood. All these simple little nods to his love of film, his love of the industry and the way that he remembers it, but also just a send-off and a love letter. And I know that that's a common consensus. It's a love letter to Hollywood. That's exactly what it is. It's very slow and methodical. There's not a lot of stuff going on, but then it's got that third act that goes bat blank crazy, like off the walls, insane. Tarantino is known for his revisionist history. He takes these iconic moments in history and sort of just flips them on their head. He does exactly what he wants to do with them. And in this case, when the Manson family goes up Cielo Drive, instead of going to Sharon Tate's residence, they end up breaking into Rick Dalton's house. He's in the back in the swimming pool listening to the music. Cliff Booth has just come back after smoking an acid-dipped cigarette, and they go all out insane. He throws a can at one girl's head. He bashes the girl's head into like the fire escape, or what? Not the fire escape, but the fireplace. He has the dog Brandy, who when he does the Brandy goes and he like chews off Tex's arm, like it goes absolutely insane. This is like one of the wildest third acts and endings of a movie I've ever seen. In the way that the rest of the film went, you would have never expected it. But this is just a movie that I feel like I've gone on a long time talking about this one movie, but it's one that I love so much, and I think that it's peak Tarantino. I don't think that he's ever had a movie that more so represented his style, his love for filmmaking and the industry than this movie. It's got the best performances, in my opinion. It's got just the most memorable moments. My favorite character in all of his movies, Cliff Booth. Brad Pitt gave one of his best performances in years. I mean, it won him a supporting actor nod. Gosh, I could gush about this movie. I have like 3 posters of the movie. I have the book that just came out. I've got a couple different editions of the movie. It's just one that I watch very often, and that I continue to love more and more every time. It might be a hot take to put it as my number 1 QT film, but it's just that good, man. It's that good. I can't put it any lower than that. I just want to shout out Ewan Reviews is in here. Jaren, Ewan, thank you for joining. I hope you're doing well, my friend. You've been killing it with the content lately, guys. Make sure to check out Ewan. He is the best of the best. He's one of the best on the platform, hands down. Thank you so much for joining. But yes, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, maybe a hot take, but yes, it's my favorite Tarantino movie. A ranking will be coming out towards the end of July, on the date that Once Upon a Time in Hollywood was originally released, July 26th. This next movie is Casino Royale. This was my introduction to the Bond franchise, and I remember the reason I watched this is because I was sick with the flu in bed for about a week and a half. Probably almost a year back now. But I was sitting in bed. I remember first I watched all of the Indiana Jones movies. Um, I was obsessed with that franchise as well. They just barely missed this list. But I watched those. I'd already seen them before. And then soon after, I watched Casino Royale. A friend of mine, Griffin Schiller, he's a Bond fanatic. He's the reason that I guess I just wanted to start checking them out. I wanted to watch them because I hadn't seen them before. So he talked them up so much that I was like, okay, I'm gonna pop in Casino Royale. And I watched it, and man, that was like, it's one of those action movies that revitalizes my love for action movies, that gets me back into that mood because it was so different. After that point, I'd watch more Bond movies, but this is the one that I was really attached to, and I think the reason is because it does take a lot of the stuff that the classic Bond films do, but it's the most mature, it's the most sleek version of the character we've ever seen, but it also has the best action, the best sequences out of all of them. It's got that great opening in black and white that is astounding. It's so exciting and fun. It really just gets you in the mood. But after that, it just kicks off and it keeps running and it never slows down. It's also got one of my favorite villains is Lashif, played by Mads Mikkelsen. And the fact that the whole movie is surrounded by this poker game, it seems very boring on paper, but the way that it was just executed, it's so well done. What can you say? They took such a simple concept and really elevated it to so many levels. You've got the bounties on people's head. You've got all these people who have these backstories and these things that they're holding their word to, their commitment to, that if they don't, they're gonna get killed. Lashif has people who he owes stuff to, that he's even afraid, even though he's the villain of the narrative. So there's a lot of stuff at play here. Daniel Craig is a great James Bond. He's absolutely my favorite. He plays the ladies man. He's got all the cheesy stuff about, he sort of implements the cheesy stuff about the character, but in such a suave and sophisticated way. There's also great emotion here, especially with him and Eva Green. It's so good. Casino Royale, I just remember I was blown away watching it. It's also a very long movie. I did feel like it seemed to end and then kept going, but I felt like it was right. And laying in bed with the flu, I was just like, that got my energy up again. That got me excited. Casino Royale is still a movie that I watch often, like a few times every year. A few times every year I have to go back and rewatch Casino Royale. It definitely impacted my love for action and just got me back in the mood. How are we feeling, guys? I know this has been a long one. We're almost through. We've got one more, and then I'm going to suck the helium. Yes, I told you I'm going to do that. Tell me what I should do once I suck the helium. I think it's going to be funny for all of us to enjoy. Reagan talks about movies is in here. Hey, Jaren. Hey, Reagan. Thanks for joining. Let's just go ahead and get into the last movie on my list. You guys may be able to guess it. I've talked about it a couple times. I did a review of it. I just picked it up on Blu-ray for the first time. I'm always talking about it on social media. If you don't know what it is by now, the movie is Blindspotting. This movie came out in 2018. I didn't see it until 2020. I had not heard anything about it, but after I watched Hamilton, I saw that this movie came out with Daveed Diggs, who played Thomas Jefferson in Hamilton, and Lafayette, one of my favorite characters from the musical. I was like, how have I not heard about this movie? I need to watch Blindspotting. I turned it on. It's unlike anything I've ever seen before. This is now my go-to recommendation for people wanting to watch a new movie. I say, check out Blindspotting. Watch Blindspotting. You're not going to regret it. Blindspotting is a movie that you're going to really, really like. I can't see you not enjoying this movie. And everyone I've ever suggested it to, they enjoy it. Then I tell them to pass it along. It's become a thing. Blindspotting takes my passion for... I'm a big fan of rap. I'm a big fan of lyrical structure like that and the rhyme schemes and all this stuff, and it takes that, and I like how a lot of the dialogue is presented in that. There's moments that don't even feel intentional, but when you really dissect what they're actually saying, it's all rhyme schemes and this different structure of words and how they just present their dialogue, and it's something I'd never seen before. Daveed Diggs and his best friend Rafael Casal made the movie. They star in it as best friends, but it also just... It tells a story about an ever-evolving culture and this black and white friend who grew up. They didn't see any differences. They didn't see the lines that separated them, the cultural representation that they both had that were significant for them, but they didn't share all of the same qualities. And because obviously this is in a time where racism is more relevant, there's a lot of stuff going on the streets. There's police shootings, all this stuff, which is significant in this movie. It's brought up very early on. They start to see the differences between each other, and they have to realize that the way that they grew up and knew the world is not necessarily how it is today, and they might have to adapt as well. It confronts racism, but also just embracing differences and learning how to respectfully have those relationships with each other, with people with different colored skin, ethnicities, backgrounds, all this stuff. It really just sort of implements that very well. I like Spike Lee, but I also feel like a lot of his movies, he's sort of just up on a pedestal preaching to a certain race, especially white people. But Blind Spotting, I feel like it sort of takes the approach of it's equal ground, looking at it from both people's perspectives. It's not talking down on people, but it's really just confronting the issue, but giving a positive way on how to come together. But also what I love about it is that it deals heavily with perspective, not only with race, but also just like the main character in this movie, Colin. He has this really big event in his life that causes a lot of people to look at him differently, but it's also because of the bad influence of his friend. And so he's forced to constantly prove himself to people, and he's now on parole. He went to jail for these actions, and he's having to make up that, and he's trying to change the directory of his life and trajectory of where it goes. And it's the perspective of some people see him now only as the guy who was on the street beating up this other guy, whereas he knows deep down in his heart he's a good person, and he's just got to change people's viewpoints. He's got to get them to see him from a different light. So I don't know how to explain it. It's just a movie that I've never seen anything like it before, and if you haven't checked it out, you need to watch Blind Spotting. It's also something that I've never seen before. They released 2 separate EPs with the release of the movie. One for Rafael Casal's character and one for Daveed Diggs' character. They both have original music on it. They go along with the characters, sort of who they are, their MO. And it's something that after you watch the movie, you can listen to and it vibes, and you sort of just get a different perspective on the character. There's a TV show now on Stars. It's also very, very, very good. Blind Spotting, pick it up on Blu-ray if you haven't yet. It's a purchase that you wouldn't regret, but it's also on streaming. Some places you can get it on Stars. It's just a movie that has really impacted me heavily, and I hope it would do the same to you if you ever check it out. But that is the last movie on my list. We got through it. That is the 18 movies to get to know me. Not necessarily all my favorites. A few of them are, but just the movies that served different impactful moments in my life that really got me to the point that I am today, where I appreciate movies on a completely different level. I took a lot of time to craft that list. That's why there's a lot of odd ones on there, a lot of ones that you definitely wouldn't associate with me now, but did serve more of an impact than you would ever think. So make sure in the comments of this video, not necessarily the live chat, but maybe after the stream, tell me all the movies, depending on how old you are, that have impacted you and that describe you the best, because I'd really like to hear. But we're not done yet. We've only been streaming for 1 hour and 22 minutes. There's plenty of time left to go. To everyone who's still in here, thank you so much for sticking around. If you haven't yet, make sure to leave a like on the stream, because it does help the algorithm. But Movies and Train Studios, dang, Jaren, that's a great list, bro. Thank you. I know it was a little rough and patchy in the beginning, but it got better. I told you guys. Great list, man. Thank you so much, Nicholas. Movies and Train Studios says, have you ever seen Sing Street? I have seen Sing Street. That's one of my favorite musicals. That's one I actually watched for the first time this year. Yeah, and I was really blown away by how much I liked it. It was really good. My favorite Spike Lee movie is Black Klansman. That is a good one. I like that one. John David Washington. It's really good. My impact list is Toy Story, Monsters, Inc., La La Land, and Scott Pilgrim. That's a great list of movies. Monsters, Inc. is cool. Toy Story, obviously, classic. La La Land, great. Scott Pilgrim, really good. I only watched that one for the first time recently, but I was really impressed by it as well. Bernardo says, that's awesome. Yeah, guys, so at this point, I need to get another drink, first of all, because my throat is about to just give out on me. I may wake up tomorrow and not have a voice, and that's fine with me because I love this. I love being able to talk to you guys. I love that I finally was able to give the list in this fashion where it's just sort of laid back, just sort of going off the top of my head. There's no rules. There's no structure. I haven't seen Blind Spotting. I think I should check it out. Do not hesitate. Just watch it. You will not regret it. I promise. Coffee is not the best for helping your throat. I should have gotten some water too. That was bad planning on my part. But yeah, from this point on, it's just going to be a normal Q&A. I'm about to cut into this helium because I have 2 gigantic balloons. Reagan says, what is Blind Spotting rated? It's rated R. I know you're younger, so I'm not sure if you'll be able to watch it. But once you do get old enough, or once your parents trust you, it's definitely one that I would suggest checking out for sure. Okay. Should I get the 1 or the 8? I'm just going to get the 1. Actually, I'm going to have to cut them both down. Let's see. Okay, so they're right here. Like, you can't even get them in the shot. I almost thought about keeping them in the shot or putting them in the shot, but they're just too big. I'm going to get my X-Acto knife. Let's see here. And I'll cut down the 1. Okay, there we go. Sorry for all the crinkling. If that's annoying for you guys. Okay, first, before I do this. My list of impact: Finding Nemo, E.T., The Thing, The Artist, 7 Samurai, La La Land, 12 Angry Men, The Cameraman, and many more I can't list. LOL. Yeah, see, that's the hard part. Just listing 18. I could have listed way, way, way more. That's great though. If you guys don't know Bernardo, you need to check out his channel at The Movie Geek. He's one of the most cultured people I know on the platform. The dude is such a connoisseur when it comes to classic cinema. He's a big Criterion collector too. Like, he just watched The Human Condition, which is a Criterion. That lasted, like, I think each movie, there's 3 of them. They each are like 3 hours long or something insane like that. And he got through it. The dude is committed. And yeah, he has a bright future. So, guys, check him out for sure. So, let me cut into this. I've never actually done this before. Okay, it's just wanting to float up. Okay. What should I say first? I'm just going to suck some up.
Does my voice... Whoa.
This is funny. Hey, it wore off really quick, though. Let's get some more in my system.
Luke, I am your father.
Oh my gosh, that's hilarious. But it only lasts for like a couple words and then it wears off. I don't know how much you're supposed to take on this before you start getting like sick or lightheaded or something. This is funny.
I am Gustavian. You probably never heard my name. Reports of my fame were greatly exaggerated. Exacerbated by the fact that my syntax was highly applicated. Okay, Reagan says, hello there. Hello.
This is funny. Oh, see, but it wears off really, really quick. Okay. Okay, say here's Johnny and helium. This is great.
Here's Johnny.
Oh, this is great. Oh, okay. Reagan just gave me a good one. There's a couple ones in here. I'm just gonna say quotes. Just give me quotes. I still think whoa, is it why my voice is like sort of still high pitched, but not? I don't know.
My name is Maximus Decimus Meridius. Father to a dead son, husband to a dead wife. This is stupid, lol.
Yeah, you guys can keep asking your questions. It's wearing off really quick, though. Yeah, like, I can still hear it just a little bit, so it's still there. It's $1 million, dude. It's not 1,000.
$1 million.
This is great. I feel like it's almost out. It's almost out. Like, I can still hear it in my voice just a little bit, so it hasn't gone away fully. Star Wars and Marvel fan 2004. Another movie on my impact list is The Phantom Menace. Sure, it's pretty bad, but it was the very first Star Wars movie I've seen. I love The Phantom Menace. I have a ton of fun with it. It's not even my least favorite of the prequel trilogy, so that's a good one. My impact list, Back to the Future, great one. Star Wars A New Hope, awesome. And Die Hard, such a good one.
Hey y'all, good morning. I am Nastavi, and you probably never heard my name. Reports of my fame are greatly exaggerated, exacerbated by the fact that my syntax is highly complicated because I immigrated from the single greatest little place in the Caribbean, Dominican Republic. It's starting to wear off there. Okay, this is perfect. The clown.
I'm sorry, yeah, guys, this is very, very stupid, but it's celebrate my birthday. These are my birthday balloons. I'm gonna suck out the helium. I just lost the spot though. It's gonna come out now. Shoot. Where was I sucking from? Right here.
The name's Bond. James Bond. It's getting really high now. That's what she said. This is funny. I'm gonna make him an offer he can't refuse. This is great. My head's not feeling light at all. Okay, keep asking questions though, because it's still a Q&A at the end of the day. Just keep going. We're gonna go until about 2 hours, and then we're just gonna head out after that. But yeah, just it's a normal Q&A from this point on. My voice is starting to come back to normal now. So yeah, just like any other live stream I do, just ask me whatever you want to ask me. I want to continue the conversation. Like I said, everyone who's still in here, thank you for staying around for my list. If you just came out and you missed my list, make sure to go back or rewatch the stream. It's gonna be great. Let's see. Let me see. I ain't calling you a truther.
Yeah, this is great. This is fun. But that wore off really quick. I'm not sure why. Like, sometimes the helium works very well. Other times it just wears off very quickly. And I lost my spot again. There it is.
Yo, happy belated birthday, Dune. I turn 18 in a few months and I don't want to think about it. Yeah, that's pretty, it's a pretty big thing. Like,
For real, it's a pretty big thing for sure. Like I said, once I turned 18, I was starting to look at it. I'm like, okay, it's not too different than 17, but just the fact that you're considered an adult and there's a little bit more responsibility and freedom, it's pretty cool. You get to make your own decisions.
Thoughts on Happy Gilmore? Well, I love this movie. It's really good. It's one of my favorite Adam Sandler movies. The helium sounds different this time, but yeah, I love the movie. I love the fact that he like swings the golf, or he plays golf with the hockey. Let me get more. I love how he plays golf with a hockey stick. His obviously Shooter McGavin is a great little villain. He's funny. I love to see him mad. Obviously his mentor, the guy with the one hand, the wooden hand who was eaten off by alligators. I don't know. Happy Gilmore is just a classic film to me that I'll never stop enjoying. And Adam Sandler's movies always are hated by critics, but I still really enjoy them, and I think audiences really enjoy them, and you can tell that he has fun with them. So that's all that matters. I love how it just starts to wear off very quickly. Roads? Where we're going? We don't need roads. Yo, Adrian, I did it!
Dude, I love this. Glad you are having fun. Thank you, man. I am having fun. I hope you guys are having fun watching me embarrass myself. This is great. Yeah, just keep, like I said, keep asking questions. If you want to keep putting quotes for me to say, that's fine too. I don't care. Eddie S is in here. Yo, happy birthday. Mine just passed as well. A happy belated birthday to you as well, Eddie. I hope you had a great day. Thank you so much for stopping by. Thank you for wishing me a happy birthday. I really appreciate it. Yeah, guys, I'm having such a good time. I love these. Y'all are the best. Dude, I can't say that. I turned 18, but I can't cuss. I don't do that on here, man. This is family friendly. Here are a couple characters from the Thomas the Tank Engine in case you don't know them. James, Percy, Toby, Edward, Henry, Gordon, Sir, Toph, and Hat, Birdie the Bus, and Harold the Helicopter. Thank you. It's too dang hot for a penguin to be walking around here.
It's too dang hot for a penguin to be walking around here.
I think I'm fully out of helium in this balloon. Hello? Nope. You know what? We're going for another one. The novelty of this probably wore off very quickly, but that's okay. Let's go. A lot of my stuff on my set just fell over.
Hasta la vista, baby. There's no crying in baseball. This is good. You guys are giving me good quotes. I really appreciate that. I think I cut another hole in the balloon besides the one I meant to cut, so it might run out very, very quickly.
Dude, one day you'll cuss. It's all about growing up. Okay, how about you change the cuss words to crap? Alright, I got you. Let's see. Where did it go?
I eat pieces of crap like you for breakfast. You eat pieces of crap for breakfast? Okay, that was a lot at once. Is there any... No, it's all gone. It's all gone. Crap. That's the end of that. I hope you guys enjoyed that while it lasted. That's funny. You're killing me, Smalls. Man, I wish I was trying to say that before it ran out, but it ran out. Vinny Conrad, was Willy Wonka 4K picture quality better than Space Jam 4K? I would say yeah. Willy Wonka is probably my favorite 4K transfer for an old film of the year so far. I was really impressed. Space Jam looks good too. There's still just a lot of iffy spots, especially with all the CGI that was very limited, but it's still good. It's a worthy pickup for sure. Didn't get to stay long, but wanted to swing by. Wish you a happy birthday. Going to watch the Tomorrow War. Have a great rest of the stream. Good night, everybody. Enjoy the Tomorrow War. I hope you enjoy it. I hope to see a review from you guys as well. Loving your channel, guys. If you haven't yet, make sure to check them out. Yeah, have fun. Thank you for stopping by. Mom always says life is like a box of chocolates. Man, I wish I would have said that one. See, I'm out of helium and I'm upset. I didn't expect to go out that fast just because, like, they're massive balloons. Like, look at this. That's massive, but they ran out very quickly. No, the helium. I mean, I can make some helium sounds myself. Like, I can try to raise the pitch of my voice. It just wouldn't be the same, so I don't think I'm going to do that. Yeah, keep asking questions, guys. If you have anything you want to know, we're going to go for just a little bit longer. If the questions stop coming, I'll probably end the stream just a little bit sooner than anticipated, but that's fine. You guys have stuck around for quite a long time, and I really appreciate it. Do you like the Ben Affleck movie, The Town? Absolutely, man. It's one of the best heist movies ever made. Ben Affleck, number one, did a great job directing it, but he's also great starring in the role. It's one of the better, man, what's his name? I'm totally blanking on his name right now. Okay, I have to look this up. Why am I blanking on his name? I get frustrated when I can literally think of somebody in my head and cannot think. Oh, Jeremy Renner. I don't have to look that up. It's one of the better Jeremy Renner video games. I'm looking at the next question here. Performances as well. Yeah, it's a good movie for sure. Favorite video game? NCAA Football 14 is my favorite. An old video game, but I really, really enjoy it, and I hope they make more of those games. Best heist movie in my opinion, Ant-Man. I like your taste, man. That's a good one. Ant-Man is a film that I think is still extremely underrated in terms of MCU properties. But yeah, I love the movie for sure. If you guys got any other questions, make sure to shoot them down below. If not, I'll go ahead and head out a little bit early. Let's see. Just got a ton of things at once. Gotta go. Have a good night and enjoy the new episode of Loki dropping tonight. And yeah, I can't wait to see what you got in the Criterion Cell. See you later, my friend. Thank you so much for stopping by. I'm really glad that you were able to join. Hope you have a good night as well. And I hope you enjoy Loki too. I'm excited for it. I hope it's good. And yeah, the Criterion Cell, it's going down, man. It's going down. And so is my wallet. My wallet is, the money in it is going down. Have you heard of a couple movies called For Me and My Gal and Presenting Lily Mars? I haven't heard of either of those, actually. I saw you just watch Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. That might be my favorite Tarantino. You have probably done this before, but can you give your quick ranking of his movies? So you must have missed it earlier in the stream, but that was one of the 18 movies to describe me. That's what I put on my list. It is my favorite Quentin Tarantino movie for sure. Number one, I'll give a top 5 because I'm really not sure for the rest. Like, I'd really have to think about it, and I also want to we'll have a ranking coming soon. My top 5, though, number 5 would have to be Django Unchained. Number 4 would have to be Inglourious Bastards. Number 3, The Hateful Eight. Number 2, Pulp Fiction. And number 1, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Are you loading up on the Criterion 50% off sale? Absolutely. I'm trying to. I only have, as of right now, before this sale, I only had one Criterion, The Breakfast Club. But literally, I'm doing everything I can to get extra money to buy these Criterions. There's some ones that I'm really excited about that I got. I'm also trying to sort of base what I get in the sale off of if you guys don't know Nathan Hale, he's a huge Criterion collection, one of my favorite guys in the space. He has this video he made a couple years ago, sort of like a Criterion starter pack and sort of recommendations for a criteria to follow when picking them up. I'm sort of following that just because I'm more of a newbie. But yeah, I'm excited to show you guys everything that I get. Have you seen Scarface 83? I have. I need to go back and rewatch it, though. I've sort of been in a mood, especially ever since rewatching Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, seeing Al Pacino in that, to just go back and watch more of his movies. There's a lot of stuff I haven't seen from him, too. Scarface, that's a good movie for sure. Favorite horror movie? You missed it earlier, but my favorite horror movie is The Shining. I know I ask a lot of classic questions. Hey, that's fine with me. But I just appreciate classic cinema, and it's just one of my fortes in the world of filmmaking. Just curious to hear your answers. That is totally fine, man. Keep those questions coming. I'm not going to be as well-versed. I'm trying to sort of study up on that era of filmmaking, and that's why I'm also trying to dive into more criterions, because I know that's what a lot of them are focused on, is the classic cinema. But I appreciate any questions you ask, man. Never apologize. Sneak peek, I picked up 18 titles thus far because I put my money aside for the sale. I'm crazy. Okay, bye. 18, that's awesome. That's awesome. I mean, if you save for it, that's so cool. That is so cool. Jack from Fanatic Films is in here, everybody. He says, my boy. Man, thank you so much for joining. Thank you so much for stopping by. I hope you're doing very, very well, my friend. I hope it's all good in the hood. I appreciate you coming by, man. You missed a lot of fun. Make sure to go back and just watch from the beginning. I also just played with some helium. If you want to resume just a few minutes, it ran out pretty quick, but we were having a little bit of fun here. But thank you so much for stopping by. I saw some of your criterions that you picked up as well. You got some pretty good titles here. I'm going to get some of the same titles that you got, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, thank you so much for stopping by. I really appreciate you. Guys, if you haven't yet, make sure to go to his channel. One of the best of the best. He recently hit 700 subscribers. He's going to hit like 1K by the end of the year, maybe even 2K. Like, maybe it's optimistic for me to say that, but he deserves it. Glad to see love for The Hateful Eight. I do not understand the hate for that movie. I don't either. I never have. I watched it for the first time a couple years ago, and I thought, man, this is the movie that everyone hates. I'm going to go into this, and I'm not going to like it. And I came out of it, I was like, this is one of the best of his movies I've ever seen. I love the movie so much. It's so atmospheric, and it's, again, a thing to where there's not a ton going on, but what is going on is so impactful and engaging. And it's, like I said, atmospheric. The cold environment makes you feel cold. Yeah, so, like, watching it, it's like you're sitting there and you need a blanket. You need to sit by a fire or something to warm you up because the atmosphere is so... It just rubs off on you, and I love it. All of it. The way that it plays out is so entertaining. Also, the extended version is even better. I could have watched that movie for 7 hours long. Dude, I've already picked up about 8 criterions this month. Dude, that's awesome. That's great. I love it. Hey, what's up, man? Certain Vids, thank you for joining. Appreciate it. Happy late birthday. Thank you so much. Have you seen Paths of Glory? Phenomenal film. No, but that's one of the ones I plan on picking it up because I love the cover with Kirk Douglas, and I know that it's one of Stanley Kubrick's movies that's not talked about as much. I heard that it's more like the logistics side of war, but I'm excited for it. Thoughts on the Mortal Kombat movies? I think the first one's nostalgic but not great. The second one, Annihilation, terrible. One of the worst movies ever made. The remake that just came out this year, I wasn't a fan of it. So yeah, if I'm going to pick a Mortal Kombat movie, it's probably the original, even though it's not great, but I still like it a little bit more than this new one. What's your top 5 Steven Spielberg movies? So you got, let's see. Jurassic Park, Temple of Doom, Raiders of the Lost Ark. Steven Spielberg, what's more movies from him that I can put on this list? I gotta think. I just need one more. I know what my number 1 is already. I'm just trying to think of my 4th favorite. Saving Private Ryan, and my number one is Catch Me If You Can. Maybe that's a hot take, but I love that movie so much. How far are you into the Harry Potter series? I noticed you started watching them for the first time a bit before me. I'm still only 3 movies in. Things got busy, and then they took them off of HBO Max. Like, I didn't realize they were taking them off after a month. Whoa, my voice just cracked. I'm losing my voice. That's what's happening. I didn't realize they were taking them off after a month, because now I'm like screwed. Like, I still don't own them on my collection, and I still need to make reviews for the second and third one that I saw. I just needed to put them off for a little bit to do other content, but yeah, so I'm still scrambling to figure out a way to watch the rest of them. So far, I really enjoy them. But yeah, I didn't realize HBO Max was just going to get rid of them that quick. It really sucked. Top 5 Martin Scorsese movies. My favorite Martin Scorsese movie is Taxi Driver, then Raging Bull, then Silence, then come on, The Irishman, and then The Wolf of Wall Street, then The Irishman. Yeah. You like Gollum from Lord of the Rings, right? Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of Lord of the Rings, but Gollum is a pretty good character. What's your top 5 Stanley Kubrick movies? So my number 1 is The Shining. I also like 2001: A Space Odyssey, then Doctor Strangelove, and then Full Metal Jacket. Really, those are the only ones I've seen. I haven't seen... Oh, I guess I have to put Eyes Wide Shut by default, but that's only because those are the ones I've seen. I still haven't seen A Clockwork Orange and Paths of Glory. I haven't seen a couple of his movies. I still need to check them out. Have you heard of the popular internet star named the Tourette's Guy? I have not. If you haven't seen Mortal Kombat Scorpion's Revenge, you're missing out. I'm a massive Mortal Kombat fan. I love that lore. That's the animated one. I need to check that out. I might pick it up on 4K. But yeah, because that intrigued me. It looked pretty good for sure, and I've heard good things. I felt like watching Harry Potter today and realized HBO Max took them down. Another reason why physical media over streaming. Physical media over streaming every day. I need to get the collection. I'm going to wait for it to be on a good price. I'm trying to figure out whether I should get the 4K set or the Blu-rays. I saw on Best Buy pre-orders, they've got some new 4K steelbooks coming out, and they're cheap. I might just buy those as they come out because they look really nice, and that'll be my way to build the collection. So my Harry Potter review series is going to be slow, but I want to wait until I'm able to actually get them in my collection in a version that I like. Going to watch Night of the Living Dead soon? Thoughts? I haven't seen it, but that's another criterion I'm thinking about picking up this month. Massive Mortal Kombat fan, and I had fun with the remake. It wasn't everyone's cup of tea. I wish I saw it on the big screen. Didn't have time. Okay, real quick. My camera battery is about to die because I've been streaming for so long, so I'm going to switch my cameras. Let's go. Let's see. 3, 2, 1. Hey, there we go. This isn't that bad of an angle. I still like it with the lighting. It doesn't look too bad. You get to see that shelf behind me that I don't get to show off very often. I'm glad you had fun with the remake, though. I know it wasn't my cup of tea, but I'm glad you liked it for sure. I think the movies are on Peacock now instead of HBO Max, although you have to pay for it, though. That's the thing. I'm not buying another subscription. Like, at that point, I'd rather just own them and have them forever instead of having to pay a monthly payment. Your favorite Robin Williams movies? So my top 2, Good Will Hunting and The Dead Poets Society. Those are by far my top 2 favorites for sure. I also love a movie called Jack, which is not good, but it's funny. It's so weird and bizarre. Miss Doubtfire, obviously. Those are great. So yeah, that's a couple. Have you watched Full House? Absolutely. One of my favorite shows as a kid. Favorite brand of toothpaste? I think Colgate, Crest, maybe? I'm not sure. I also use Sensodyne because I had like sensitive teeth for a while. Good question. Very obscure. I had stuff fall down on my set earlier. Let's see. Let me put it back. There we go. All is right in the world again. Sorry about that. Going to watch Interstellar. Opinions. Dude, I hope you have a blast with the movie. I love it. Again, that's one of those movies that I heard a lot of bad things about it, so going in, I expected to hate it, but I absolutely did not. I love that movie. Thoughts on The Big Lebowski? Just watched it for the first time recently. Trippy, man. I don't understand fully what that movie was about. I don't even know if there was an actual purpose of the movie. It's just all over the place, but I like the comedy. It's very dark, too. Like, it's got a dark sense of humor. Yeah, Jeff Bridges is great. I think my favorite performance in the movie is John Goodman. Sparky, this isn't Nam. There are rules. It's a great movie. Do you know the song I'm a Barbie Girl? I'm a Barbie girl in a Barbie world. Yep, I know the song very well. I wish I didn't, but I do. Okay, guys. I think that's going to be it. We've been streaming for almost 2 hours. We've done a lot today. We talked about my 18 movies to describe me. We sucked some helium. I sucked some helium. I'm starting to feel it now. I got a little bit of a headache. But yeah, I had fun, guys. Thank you so much to everyone who stuck around. Thank you to everyone who came in on the later half of the stream. I really appreciate it. Make sure if you haven't yet to leave a like on the stream, subscribe if you haven't, make sure to share with your friends. Thank you so much to everyone here. I'll read off these last few questions. Thoughts on the movie no one's heard of? Shrek, love it, one of my favorite animated movies. I really liked Interstellar till the third act. I thought the third act was good too, actually. I'm looking to own the films as well, even though my first time watch ended a few days ago. Good stream, man. Thank you. Yeah, that's good for sure. I definitely want to own the films. I feel like it's a great franchise to own. But yeah, that is going to do it. Thank you so much to everyone watching and celebrating for the birthday, for having some fun. I really appreciate it. You guys are the best. But until next time, I'll see y'all later.